The independent MP Rob Oakeshott has defended his role in a parliamentary row that almost forced the Speaker Harry Jenkins to quit his job. Mr Oakeshott sided with the opposition to help defeat a motion supporting one of the Speaker's rulings. For more on this, I'm joined by our political editor Lyndall Curtis. And Lyndall, a bit of drama there with the finely balanced parliament yesterday.
Yes, a bit of drama to round out what was a very busy day in Canberra yesterday, when the Speaker, after he'd endured what was a very rowdy question time, finally warned all the MPs to be on their best behaviour. Then one transgressed the Speaker's ruling, Bob Baldwin, the Liberal member for Patterson, and the Speaker named him. There was a vote to see if he could be thrown out of Parliament for 24 hours. And that vote was lost. That doesn't happen very often, and it's effectively seen as a raising a question of confidence in the Speaker. The Speaker then said he'd have to consider his position. Tony Abbott quickly moved a motion of confidence in the Speaker, which was supported by all. But the man whose vote was crucial in the vote on Bob Baldwin's suspension was the independent MP Rob Oakeshott, and he joins us in the studio now. Mr Oakeshott, welcome to News 24.
Thanks.
When you voted the way you did on the move to toss Bob Baldwin out for 24 hours, did you realise the implications your vote would have?
Oh, sure, but I don't think the implications of past practice necessarily apply in this very tight 43rd Parliament, and I'm pleased to see that's how it all played out yesterday. In fact, what by accident the House basically did yesterday was reaffirm the stability of this Parliament and make a very strong statement that the structure is stable and the Speaker has confidence. He probably got a bigger compliment than any Speaker in the previous 110 years, that the opposition has basically moved 6 months or 9 months into a Parliament, a motion of confidence in him.
But the Speaker's tried several times to quieten the House. He then issued a general warning to all MPs. Bob Baldwin was the first one to flout that. Why shouldn't he have been dealt with in the way the Speaker wanted?
Yeah, the Speaker and I have talked about this morning privately, and I think in the nature of the Parliament, there's some things that are happening in one part of the Parliament that he and others are hearing that some in other parts of the Parliament aren't hearing. And so, I'm in this place because I believe in individuals' rights and liberties, and, I'll do what I can to defend colleagues if I don't hear or see anything that's too bad.
But don't you have to, in the end, rely on the Speaker as effectively the umpire? If he hears something he thinks should be drawn to attention or he thinks should be acted on, don't you need to back him up? The House of Reps practice says the naming of a member...
Gone back to the book.
Gone back to practice. The naming of a member is in effect an appeal to the House to support the chair, and in this case he didn't.
Yeah, that's right, but it's got to be on merit, in my view, because I do support a private member's rights in this place. That is culturally what we're trying to do in this 43rd Parliament. But you're right, and in the conversation with the Speaker today, if he names someone again in the future, and if people such as myself haven't heard or seen anything that deserves a naming, I will ask the Speaker for an explanation of exactly what is the trigger for him, and then make a judgment call based on that, and more than likely go with the Speaker if it's on solid grounds.
If we can move now to the question of climate change. Professor Ross Garnaut, the government's climate change advisor, handed down his last report. The multi-party committee on climate change, of which you're a part, met last night. Can you say if Professor Garnaut's report embodies the general direction that the committee's heading in?
Oh, Ross Garnaut is a member of the committee, so it's an important part of the jigsaw puzzle. We're still waiting on another important part that hopefully will be out in the next few days, and that is the Productivity Commission report, which looks at all the international jurisdictions and linkages that are potentially available to Australia, and then the Treasury modelling, so the macro story of just what is Australia doing regardless of a price on carbon. I think those three together really are the final pieces of the jigsaw puzzle as we try and work through what is a pretty tight negotiation.
But the sort of scheme that Professor Garnaut outlined, the sort of compensation he looked at, the way it would work, is that generally similar to the broad outline of what you're discussing?
Oh yeah, look, I think the platform is 3 rounds of CPRS in the last Parliament, and then we've got an update now from Garno. We're going to throw Productivity Commission and Treasury modelling in the mix, and then there are also party platforms from both the Greens and the Labor Party, and also various wants from Tony Windsor and myself in regards to what we think is important in policy development. So all of that into the pot, and I think there is an agreement waiting to happen that is substantially better than what was getting put to the Parliament in the last Parliament. But, we've still got a lot of negotiating to go. This can go wrong very easily.
The household compensation will be crucial to selling this package to the public, making it a package that the public feels it can support. The Prime Minister yesterday said tax cuts as a way of delivering that compensation, which is what Professor Garno has suggested, is a serious option. Is it a serious option for you?
Oh, very much so. I've been quite public now for some time that this is not only about responding to the science, this is an opportunity for some substantial tax reform. And really what we are talking about is tax reform in drag. So hopefully we can bring that home in this opportunity. And
so bringing in the elements that Professor Garno suggested of the Ken Henry review into taxation to do effectively a dual job, which is to compensate and to provide more incentives for work?
Yeah, look, in very broad terms, if we can turn Garno into Henry as much as possible, I think we've done some really good work in capturing the moment. As well, the land sector work I think is really important in a general sense, and that's something that we've all now been saying for some time. If we can include that in the mix and get the links there that weren't there in the past, again, I think we've done some really good work. But again, these negotiations are tight, and I wouldn't want to preempt anything that could happen over the coming month.
You said earlier this week that the deadline of making a decision by the end of June, announcing early July, might be a tight one. The Climate Change Minister, Greg Combet, said last night he'd like to nudge you along. Do you think he can be nudged?
Oh, we're all nudging each other, and, if we can get agreement, I'd happily, sign up tomorrow and see legislation next week. The reality is, though, I think we want to get it right, and I don't want to be certainly bound by a particular time frame that is not there for any particular reason. I get the point of 1st of July 2012 and plenty of work needing to be done by then, but I don't want to make mistakes in a rush to, finalise these negotiations in the lead up to legislation coming into the Parliament. I don't think I'm alone on that. I think Tony Windsor is the same. I think it's really important that we get this right, and that is the overriding priority rather than trying to stick to some sort of deadline.
Rob Oakeshott, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.